Comic improvisation has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and improvisation is as old as theater itself. So because it's been around for so long, it's obviously really broad, so I'm just going to focus on comic improvisation specifically. Comic improvisation is still used today by actors and actresses to warm themselves up before a performance, but it's not just useful for professionals. It's useful to anybody who practices comic improv, because it helps to build your confidence and your self-esteem, and it helps to make you feel more comfortable in front of an audience. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept, got it to work. What is comic improvisation? Essentially, comic improvisation is when a group of people called athletes go up on stage and improvise a scene just off the top of their heads based on a suggestion given from the audience just moments before. A really good popular example is Whose Line Is It Anyway? I'm sure many of you have seen that, probably more of you have heard of it. And the big name in comic improv these days is Comedy Sports, which is actually founded here in Wisconsin in Milwaukee in 1984. Now, even though it's improvised, there are still some basic structures and rules that comic improv follows. So some of the rules are no hesitation. If you stop and think too much about what you're going to say, it's not going to be funny. The audience is just going to get sick of hearing you say a lot, and they're just going to get tired of you. The second rule is yes and. There are three kinds of people. There are yes but people who take everything that you say and argue with you to your wit's end about it, and you can never have a conversation with them. There are yes people who just smile and nod. Conversations don't go anywhere when you do that. The concept of yes and is to take what you're given and then add to it to keep the scene moving and to keep the audience entertained. And finally, it's not acting, it's playing. It's not all about performing and making yourself look good. It's about having fun. So, some basic structures of games. There's a switch game, and I'm just going to go through these really quickly. Switch interview is the example that I have here, where there are two people, and one is the interviewer and one's the interviewee, and they get a topic from the audience, and then the interviewer has to interview the other person about that topic. And the interviewee is an expert on that topic, even if they have no idea what it is. So then after about 30 seconds, the ref yells switch, the interviewer becomes the interviewee, there's a new interviewer, and then they get a new topic. Forward reverse is an example of a scene game, where 3 or 4 people do a scene based on a suggestion from the audience, and then at any time during that scene, the ref can yell forward or reverse. And when you're going in reverse, you have to say all your lines in reverse order and do all your actions backwards until the ref yells forward again. In replay, again, 3 or 4 people get a suggestion from the audience and they do a short scene. And then at the end of it, they have to do the scene again, but this time the audience gives them a new suggestion that kind of adds a little bit of a twist to it. Like maybe each actor has a different accent that they have to do, or maybe they have to do it in the style of a particular film genre, like horror or film noir or an opera. And then freeze tag is an example of a freeze game where there are 2 people and they're just doing a scene. At any time, a player can yell freeze, and people on stage have to freeze in their position. The person who yells freeze goes up and taps one of them out, assumes their position, and starts a completely new scene based on that position. So now that you know what improv is, you can play it, because anybody can play improv. You don't have to be an actor to do it, and you don't have to be funny. I can never stress that enough. People will say that they won't do improv because they don't think they're funny enough. But really, if you go up on stage and you say whatever comes to the top of your head first, it's hilariously entertaining for the audience to see. Now the big question is, yes, anyway, this is including but not limited to grandparents. Grandparents are excellent to have in an audience. They always cheer the loudest. You want to have your grandparents there. Best Buy salesmen, you know, like the people who won't let you leave until you buy something, they'll make sure everybody laughs. And kittens, because who doesn't want to have kittens? You don't want to have kittens? It makes everybody happy when there are kittens around. Why play improv? Well, it helps to build your confidence. You feel more confident when you're in front of groups of people. And when you get used to being in front of an audience, it helps you for future uses. Like, for example, a speech and comm 101. I mean, even if you're not confident in what you say in comic improv, at least act confident, because if you hesitate too much, again, the audience is going to know that you don't know what you're doing, and it's really going to change their perception of you. Improv increases your reflexes because you really have to be 2 steps ahead of everybody all the time. You really have to always be on the spot. And it helps to understand how audiences think. That's the biggest point, is that it gets you into the audience mindset. You know that the audience isn't sitting there and thinking, hey, I can't wait for this guy to fail. They're sitting there and they're thinking, I can't believe this guy's able to do this. Like, for example, you guys probably aren't thinking, crash, burn, crash, burn, crash, burn. You're thinking, I'm glad I'm not the one who had to go first for this presentation, probably. And improv makes you feel more comfortable in front of an audience, because like I said, audiences are not waiting for you to fail. They're there to be entertained, and they're really thinking, I can't believe somebody's able to do this. Who would do this to themselves? I would do that to myself, because these next few slides, and also one earlier one, if you didn't notice, I didn't make myself. I had my friends make, and they sent them to Professor Hop, and he made the presentation just before class. So, like I said, comic improv helps you feel more comfortable in front of audiences, and one of the things that make people really uncomfortable is stage fright. So one way to get over stage fright is to sing opera. You know, like when you have to say something like, boy, you want kittens in your audience. Change that into, you want kittens in your audience. That was a demonstration. Interpretive dancing. Now, if you take the kittens and you dance, kittens, meow, interpretive dance. Hot dog eating contests. That is a great way to get over stage fright, because nobody looks more like an idiot than when you have your face stuffed with hot dogs. And you give everybody that you meet a groovy hug, because why not? I mean, if you're nervous in front of people, give people a hug. Birdie Bot's Every Flavor beans have every single flavor, and that pertains to improv, because really when you're doing improv, you're doing everything. It's a little bit of singing, dancing, there's acting obviously, and there's just thinking off the top of your head. So, some positive effects of improv. Health benefits. It's really, really an athletic sport to do. There's a lot of running and jumping. It improves your brain plasticity. You know, your brain it becomes stretchy and stuff. You shake it around, you can feel it in there. It helps the flow of hair, like that. Comic improv is not just an activity, as you can see. It's a skill that can be applied to everyday life. It helps you feel more confident about everything that you do. It helps you feel better about yourself. It makes you more in control of your surroundings. And llamas, because llamas are always being mistaken for alpacas, just like comic athletes are always being mistaken for actors. But it's not the same. Llamas and alpacas are just the same as actors and improvisers. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Very, very brave presentation.
Might have gone a little bit over time.
Oh, it's fine. I'm very comfortable. All right, hit the AV mute button and we'll get going with Jake.
When you do the front stop,
I meant to do that? Yes.
I was like, well, hey, I have something. So I just pressed the record button again to make it stop.
Nope, you hit the stop button.